changed so very much from what it used to be. There's so much hatred, war and poverty. Wake up all the teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say. They're the ones who's coming up, and the world is in their hands. When you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. Na 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 na. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it now, just you and me.
KBLA Talk 1580. What an appropriate theme song. My next guest is former president of the Guild Law School, publisher and co-founder of the LA Progressive. She's an attorney. She was a member of several spaceflight teams at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Man, what a resume. She is sitting on several boards currently, including the board of directors for the ACLU. Sharon Kyle, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I so appreciate spending this time with you this morning.
Yeah, I always love talking to you because you just know things, and you know a lot of things. I mean, it makes sense. You are the publisher of the LA Progressive, and you guys print, or I should say publish digitally, a lot of material every day.
Every day for 16 years, actually more than 16 years now. My husband, Dick Price, and I have been publishing content on an average between 5 and 10 pieces a day, every day. We feel like this is a calling. Especially in these times, gosh, I feel like, I wish everybody would just read, not necessarily just the LA Progressive, but all progressive content, including what you do here at KBLA 1580. It's so important at these times that we understand our roles as participants in making this democracy work.
You know, it's funny because this is what I call Talking Point Tuesday, because people, I think we need to start being mindful of what comes out of our mouth and where it came from. And what you're saying about reading, that would make a huge difference, wouldn't it?
Oh, my gosh. You know, what's so obvious to me is I've gone on a different trajectory than many of the members of my family. And because we have published really over 40,000 articles in the past 16 years, and I would say about 75% of those articles I have edited. So, and we also write. So we write, and obviously we edit every single thing that we publish. We don't just, copy and paste. We have relationships with our authors, which also helps to broaden our understanding of the content. We interview the authors. But I've seen this sort of divergence in my family where I'll talk about something and it feels, because they don't necessarily read. Initially, when we started the LA Progressive, my intention was to provide progressive content to the Black community. And the Black community, my family is, by the way, I'm Black, so people that can see me can see that I'm Black. But my husband is white. And so my intention was different than his intention. My intention was specifically to provide content to help Black people understand how to be more equipped in making decisions about the best outcomes for them when they choose a legislator or they're trying to decide on a particular initiative. But I use Google Analytics to help me to understand who my audience is. And it became apparent within the first 6 months that Black people just weren't reading. And that was true also with my family. That was my first indicator. My family wasn't reading.
They weren't reading your publication.
My publication.
Right? I mean, if they were going to read anything, it would have been your
Right.
publication,
Yeah.
right?
They do not read to this day. It's been 16 years. I even have family members who live with me who do not read the LA Progressive. And, I've just sort of, maybe it just wasn't meant to be. I'm going to still create this content and still distribute this content to whomever will read it.
Right. Wow. Well, we thank you for it. It's wonderful, and it's helpful to have this content aggregated in a way where, things that we might miss as progressives, our issues and our priorities are not usually on the first page of the paper.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, of course, Black people, we're all aware of the areas where there's an intersection between a particular issue. Like they say, in America, if America has a cold, Black America has pneumonia. So we understand the crises, the multiple crises that we live through. I mean, I'm thinking about the relationships that we have with the law enforcement across the nation. I'm thinking about our economic crises and foreclosures and employment crises and health crises. So we're aware of the crises. I'm really interested in the root causes, and that's where progressivism comes in understanding the root causes that cause us and others to always seem to be in the crosshairs. If there's an economic downturn, we're going to get hit hard. If there are a lack of healthcare facilities in a particular community, guess which community it's going to be. So I'm very interested in the root causes, and the root causes, in my opinion, in the work that I've been doing for the past 16 years, and even before that, the root causes always point to economics.
So, what is it? How did you become a Black progressive? I mean, you were already Black, but how did you become a progressive? I guess is the real question.
Yeah. I think, I was always the kind of person who was sort of in the background and very observant. I remember as a kid, my mother used to say, go on outside and play. And I didn't want to go outside and play. I'd rather stay inside and read or listen to the adults. I just wasn't that kind of kid. I was quiet, I was shy, and I just wanted to read my books or stay indoors. But I've always been very observant, and I've always been curious about understanding why things are the way that they are.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Why things are the way that they are. So I got married early, had children early. I had my first child when I was a teenager. And I, of course,
Different husband.
Different husband. Yeah, that was the first among several.
You're silly.
But what drove me initially was my kids, raising my kids. And obviously, I'm a mom. I love my children. But I did not want to repeat the cycles that I had seen in my family history. So I started to do research about schools and, for my children. And I couldn't afford to put them in private school. But the more research I did, the more I saw that our economics were tied to, the racial disparities were tied to our economic deficiencies, even in education. So I had to make decisions early on. Was I going to send my children to schools in predominantly white neighborhoods where it was predicted, the predicted outcomes for their achievement were higher than they were in the neighborhoods where I lived? Initially, the first house I bought was in Pacoima. And it wasn't a good idea to send my children to school in Pacoima. And that's when I started just really trying to understand why the economics play out the way they do. Yes, there's racism, but why? And I don't know if I veered off from answering your question, but my son, the one that I had when I was a teenager, he's now 48 years old.
Wow.
So it's been a long journey to understanding.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you answered the question because a lot of the time, what can drive us, especially you as a very young mother, is how do we figure out what's best for our children? Yeah. I know, we'll do a lot of things that we might otherwise not do when it comes to our kids.
Yeah. I took a job that maybe I would not have taken. I might not have had the courage to take, but they were offering a salary that I absolutely needed. I maintained that position, or I maintained a relationship with that company, which happened to be NASA, for 23 years because of my children and needing to put them through college.
Yeah, but that said, you do have to be somewhat of a brainiac to even land that job.
I come across as a brainiac. I mean, I can possibly present as a brainiac, but I think that we're all brainiacs. It just kind of depends on what your interests are.
Mm-hmm.
And I poured myself into books, always have, and I probably always will. But yeah, so that's where I spent my time. But like you said, I was motivated by needing to provide for my children and also to be an example for my children. So not just simply get money, but get money and make decisions, either decisions about who I'm going to vote for, decisions about where we're going to live, all of that with the thought in mind that someone is watching you. Someone is modeling who they're going to be based on the decisions that you're going to make. And that kind of came up for me when I had to make a decision to end our marriage. I didn't want my children to watch a dysfunctional relationship and think that that's the normal way to be, which is what my parents did. And I didn't want to repeat the pattern that was established for me.
Mm. Well, we're talking with Sharon Kyle, and we're going to look at issues on the horizon, but through the lens of what it means to be a Black progressive. 800-920-1580 if you've got questions, conversations, or criticisms, all are welcome. 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DiPrima for Unapologetically Progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. Visit jpmorganchase.com/racial equity and get the tools to help reach your financial goals.
Hey, I have a secret. I use Secret Whole Body Deodorant because more than just my armpits stink.
Oh, can I use it where my bra rubs under my...
Oh, yeah.
And what about down there? My...
Totally. 4 out of 5 gynecologists would recommend it. So I tried it, and now I get 72 hours of freshness from my pits to my...
Ooh, I love that it's a spray.
Me too. And it comes in sticks and creams too. Go get your Secret Whole Body Deodorant.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Charles Barkley in a pickup game.
We'll take Barkley.
Ha! First pick. Sorry, kids.
Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision?
Okay, here's the plan. Pass me the ball every time.
This is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA member FDIC.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
And I'm talking with Sharon Kyle, who is the publisher, editor, and one of the writers for the Los Angeles Progressive. And I want to just share a couple things folks are saying in the KBLA 1580 YouTube chat. Selena Rick says, yep, it's all about the economics. The math needs to math for everyone, including Black people. You could maybe expound on that a little bit, because sometimes it seems like we're being asked to choose between a race analysis and a class analysis in terms of what is has a greater bearing on our status or our ability to progress.
Yes. So yes, some people reduce our situation to class only. Without the intersection of race. And I don't think that will ever that type of analysis will ever get us to the place where we need to be. We must address the racial issues, especially here in the United States. Now, I go back, me being the researcher, the delver, the looking for the root cause of the situation. And I go back to the late 1600s when
1600s, okay.
when we came here. So
you sound like Dr. Gerald Horne.
Right, after 1619 when we first got here.
Right.
But initially, obviously, everyone knows that this country was inhabited by the Native Americans. And then when the Europeans came, and there were all of these trees and this undeveloped land, and they needed laborers to provide the kind of land that was usable. And quickly, they were going to use the Native Americans, and quickly realized that wasn't going to work out too well, because they knew the land and they knew how to get away, and they did. But they used indentured servants from Europe and enslaved Africans, and some indentured servants from Africa as well. But early on, there became conflict between the haves and the have-nots. So between the ultra-rich, who were benefiting significantly from the labor of the indentured servants and the enslaved. And the indentured servants and the enslaved were living together, working together, and they were finding common cause in throwing off the yoke of the wealthy. And there were a series of rebellions, but the one rebellion that caused a major shift in the way that the races, which we know is a social construct. So the races weren't even races at that time, but they became races as a result of Bacon's rebellion in Virginia, in 1680s, I think 1688, sometime around then. There was a huge rebellion, and it took a year to actually put the rebellion down. And in fact, they were so successful during this rebellion that they ousted the governor of Virginia, who was Virginia was a colony at the time. It was not a state of the United States. It was a colony. But they were able to oust the governor, and they were running the show. And it took a year for the English to send in the redcoats and to put down that rebellion. But one of the things that they learned during that year is that the divide and conquer method of achieving what they needed to achieve, the way that they could divide and conquer was along racial lines. And so they created these different rules for different people. And so that's been the foundational, one of the foundational cornerstones of the United States. It established how we would decide who gets what.
Yeah. And if you look at what's happening now with low-income white folks flocking behind a fake populist in Trump, who's actually a billionaire who had not just a silver but a golden spoon in his mouth when he was born. It's really the same thing.
It's
the trickeration towards those, modern day wage slaves or indentured servants who are somehow thinking that they have the same privileges that Trump has.
Absolutely. And back to root causes, if these root causes remain undealt with, unaddressed, what we'll see is a through line. So we see the same message generation after generation and the same outcomes. You look at the hierarchy back in 1680, 1688, it's the same hierarchy that exists today. And we determine who gets the best stuff.
I mean, so ironically, right now, with this movement of certain black people who are supporting Trump and taking a hardline anti-immigrant stance, and some that are just taking that stance because they think it's the right thing to do, that to me now we're the indentured servants. And in this American scenario, we're going to give you a tiny bit more than these folks, or we're going to make you think that these folks are a threat to you and that your privilege depends on you being divided from them.
The key word there is divided. Whenever you see the upper classes trying to divvy up the crumbs to the lower classes, and at the same time making a distinction between who gets a little bit more, you can easily see, okay, so this is a tactic to help them to remain in power while we fight amongst ourselves for the crumbs. The ones who are really causing the problems walk away with all the goods.
But again, back to Selena's point, she says the math needs to be math for everyone. And you made the point that economics is what you've observed to be at the root cause. So do you think that sometimes as Black folks, we think too much about racism and don't have enough of a class analysis?
Oh, well, I won't say that we think too much, but I do think that just like you can't come to a solution without addressing race, you also can't come to a solution without addressing class. So you must have a class analysis as well. I do believe that it's essential, and we're not going to be able to find the right solutions until we address both.
By the way, Selena also says, yes, a master of your own craft, definitely. I second that. And Paulie says, I understand, Sharon. I've personally dealt with my own family generational curses and trauma. I refuse to pass them on to my children as well. And I think, even though, my family, you guys know them as writers or whatever, I have the same challenges. We strive to break the chains from our children's generation, with varying degrees of success.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes, and I know I made mistakes, even though my kids tell me, oh, no, Mom, you did a great job. We all make mistakes, but I think it's really incumbent upon each of us to try to do some inward looking and find ways to always improve, always try to be on a path of self-improvement.
Daryl Brown says, my goal, if any, is to skew 50-50 when it comes to Black folk and poor people. Right now, it's 60-40. You can't give people a pass solely because they are Black. Would they do the same for me? Nope.
You can't give people a pass simply because they're Black. So when I hear a statement like that, I'm not going to make any assumptions, so I'm not going to assume that the person making that statement is not Black. But when I hear a statement like that, the first thing that I wonder is, how much history does this person have under their belt? How much do they understand about the impediments to success that have just been laid before Black people since 1619? I don't think that color alone is a reason to give someone an advantage, but sadly, in the United States, you can almost guarantee that a Black person has been unfairly treated and unfairly disadvantaged, and they have some unearned disadvantage.
Yeah, unearned disadvantage. That's a great term and a great point. One that the Supreme Court of the United States seems very willing to overlook at this moment in time.
That's right. And clearly the people who believe or don't believe in unearned disadvantage, they haven't done their research. And you can do your research in a lot of ways. You can do your research just by being in deep relationship with other kinds of people. You learn by being in relationship with people. I mentioned that my husband is white, and I would say my husband is a kind man. He is. He's a kind man. He's a generous man. He's a loving man. But he wasn't raised around Black people. He's learned a lot about Blackness just by being married to me.
Yeah, for over 20 years, right?
Yes, that's right.
Wow.
That's right.
So, okay, we just got about 2 minutes until news, traffic, and sports. We'll continue on the other side. You define yourself as a Black progressive. We've talked a little bit about your journey to there. How do you define that?
So when I think of myself as being a Black progressive, I generally see through a lens of being Black in America. And I think that this is going to be radical, but I actually believe that if the rest of the country could see the country through the lens of Blackness, that this country would be headed in the right direction. I think that the Black experience can be used as a barometer for how functional this democracy actually is. And all you have to do is look at where Black people are in terms of education, healthcare, housing, and the list goes on and on. But we're a great index or barometer for democracy.
We are, in a sense, the canary in the coal mine, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's radical, but I also think it's because in the sense that people would resist it, because maybe they think you're saying a Black perspective is better. But for me, it makes sense because if you can't see America, my beloved country, I consider myself a progressive patriot. If you can't see her with all her bumps and flaws, then how can she ever live up to the great promise that we have put forth in our Constitution and in our rhetoric to the world?
Absolutely. And when you look at all of the major leaps that this country has taken in the direction of truly being an equitable, a fair place, it's for the most part been because Black people have been fighting. When you look at, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, the Voting Rights Act, all of the things that have taken this country closer to what it's promised to be has been because Black people have fought for it.
Jamal Hakeem says, let's give it up to all our athletes, men and women. They still have to cope with this racist system and the ramifications of it. We're right up against news, traffic, and sports, Jamal Hakeem. We'll have Sharon Kyle address that and more when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Democratic nominee for Cook County, Illinois State's Attorney Eileen O'Neill Burke is prepping for the general election. She held a victory event yesterday in Chicago's West Loop. She was declared the winner of the election on Friday over the African-American candidate Clayton Harris III, who conceded. The election was close, with O'Neill Burke winning by a margin of less than 1,600 votes. The Powerball jackpot is over $1 billion after nobody won the grand prize in Monday night's drawing. 6 tickets did, however, net players $1 million each. Those tickets were sold in North Carolina, Florida, Virginia, Minnesota, and Maryland, which recorded 2 lucky winners. The next drawing takes place tomorrow with the cash option on a win of over $527 million. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Californians face unique challenges that call for localized solutions. Strengthening the bonds of community in your neighborhoods is one of the best ways to be prepared for our next climate disaster. Neighbor to Neighbor is a California volunteers network designed to help strengthen your community. Learn more at caneighbors.com.
Turn your tax refund into a new ride at Nissan of Mission Hills and Gardena Nissan. Find a huge selection with over 1,000 vehicles in stock. Lease a new 2023 Rogue SV at $195 a month. Plus, lifetime oil changes on any new Nissan purchased there.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A wonderful season for the USC women's basketball team came to an end Monday night. USC lost by 7 to UConn in the Portland Regional Final of the NCAA tournament. USC fell 1 game short of their first Final Four appearance since 1986. The Trojans finished the season 29-6, 29 points for freshman star Juju Watkins. The 29 helped the Compton native set an NCAA Division I scoring record for freshmen with 920 points. This is just the beginning for Juju. She has already become one of the premier attractions in women's college basketball. She will certainly be a box office name next season. The USC men's basketball program is looking for a new head coach. Andy Enfield was hired Monday by Southern Methodist University in Dallas. Enfield led USC to 5 NCAA tournaments during his 11 seasons in LA. The Lakers are at Toronto tonight. The Clippers are in Sacramento. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We're not just a thermometer recording and broadcasting popular opinion. We aim to be a thermostat, transforming the conversation about climate justice in our community. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk 1580.
It's a celebration of a living legend.
It's the Farewell Tour.
It's Maze featuring Frankie Beverly.
Thank you for the love to the
Also featuring the soul icon, Anthony Hamilton. Plus, After 7. It's a Mother's Day celebration, May 12th in the Kia Forum. In commemoration, come in your all white. Get tickets at Ticketmaster. Presented by the Black Promoters Collective.
If your Medi-Cal is ending, Cover California is here to help. Cover California is a service from the state that helps you get affordable health insurance. In many cases, at no cost to you, just like with Medi-Cal. We have quality health plans, and we'll help you every step of the way to get the one that works for you and your family. So, if you're no longer eligible for Medi-Cal, check out Cover California. We'll keep you covered. Learn more at coveredca.com.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Charles Barkley in a pickup game.
We'll take Barkley.
Ha! First pick. Sorry, kids.
Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision?
Okay, here's the plan. Pass me the ball every time.
This is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA, member FDIC.
Eggs are a staple in our diets, and there's only one egg with more delicious farm-fresh taste plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best. With more vitamins, including 6 times more vitamin D and 10 times more vitamin E, plus 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Available in so many delicious varieties. Classic, cage-free, and organic. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
And I'm talking with Sharon Kyle. She is the publisher, editor, and one of the writers for the Los Angeles Progressive. She's an attorney and a long-time progressive. We were talking about, we're just responding to some of the stuff in the chat and talking about what it means to be a black progressive and putting that lens on so many of the issues and challenges that we face in this country. Jamal Hakim in the chat said we should give it up for the athletes who are dealing with this. And it made me think about, the story of these the incident recently during the NCAA tournament at a Utah hotel where the athletes actually had to move to a different room because they were experiencing a series of racial hate crimes while staying at a hotel in Utah during the NCAA tournament. They were called the N-word. They had, all kinds of, they don't go too much into detail, but what they describe as racial hate crimes.
Yeah, so, being an athlete, being a celebrity, that does not make you immune to racism. Like I said, until we get to the root cause of this problem of racism in this country, we'll continue to suffer the consequences. After South Africa, after Nelson Mandela was released from prison and then he became the president, one of the first things he did was have this period of truth and reconciliation. And we've never done anything like that in this country. I'm not going to suggest that what South Africa did was a panacea for all their racial problems.
Right, because they had truth and reconciliation without 40 acres and a mule.
Right.
So they need reparations.
They do too.
Just like we do. Yeah.
But we got to start with truth. Then reconciliation.
Right.
Then reparations. But we never even started with truth.
Yeah. Well, Conversation Live, this guy. He wants to know what sets black progressivism apart from white liberalism. And I would take it a step further, James, and say, what is it that white progressives or white liberals need to learn from black progressives? Because I feel like I've been in plenty of spaces with white progressives where even though they're progressive, they feel like they should automatically be in charge and they don't even realize they're doing it. That is based in a construct of white privilege.
Yes, and I think that there is a basic difference between being a liberal and being a progressive.
Yeah, let's start there.
So, so for me, the basic difference is a liberal likes things the way they are. They just want people to be nicer. So I think that we need radical transformation of our economy. We need to get away from this neoliberalism where we've allowed corporations to rule. Essentially, our electeds are owned, including the whole judicial system is owned. So when I talk about progressivism going to the roots of the problem are economic, and the economic problems deal with capitalism. We need to deconstruct the way that this country works economically, and that means a deconstruction of capitalism. Liberals don't want that. Liberals want a nicer, kinder capitalism, which I believe is antithetical to...
Right, so kind of like liberals want capitalism with cookies.
Yes.
Right, for everybody. Everybody gets cookies. And progressives want transformative change.
That's right.
I think that's a good way of framing it. I think I've heard Tavis Smiley, the owner of this station, say progressives want for their children what for everybody else's children what they want for their own.
That's good. Yeah,
it's good, but it is good, but where is the transformative change in that? I guess it would have to be, because if you're Elon Musk and you're stacking billions, there's no way you can want for everyone else's children what you want for your own.
I think that the existence of billionaires, that would be impossible if we had true progressivism in this country. We could not have the huge economic disparities that we have. We couldn't have a corporation where the people at the top are earning $3,000 more than the laborers, 3,000% more than the laborers. That wouldn't be possible.
So, I mean, what kind of model are you talking about? Okay, for me, the model is like a democratic socialism with a mixed economy. So if there's a floor, no one goes unhoused, no one goes uneducated, no one goes hungry. But if you want to go sell oranges by the freeway or build, a rocket company, you can.
That's right. I believe that we should have a minimum wage that is a living wage. And I believe that we should also have a maximum wage. I think that there is a point at the top where it becomes destructive, where the amount that these people are earning are actually harming society. And I think we're there with the Elon Musks and the Zuckerbergs and so on. It's only a handful of them. I should be able to name them all, and I actually could if I had my computer monitor on.
But, I mean, that's an interesting concept, maximum wage. I mean, I've never... of course, you will probably get pilloried for that because they'll say that you are stifling innovation or, hating on another man's opportunity. But if you think about billionaires in that elite, not the 1%, but the 1/10 of 1%, they have more money than they can ever spend in their lifetime, probably 10 lifetimes. And at the point where that becomes a detriment to society, maybe there should be some kind of cap, or at least a more robust system of taxing, because these folks are, not even close to paying their fair share.
No, they don't pay their fair share. And I think that it calls us to question the purpose of society and governments. When they came to this planet, each of us, we all came here buck naked. For some reason, we have an economic structure that facilitated these people hoarding what they've hoarded. Now, if a woman was somewhere hoarding 50,000 cats, she'd be taken to a hospital. Something's wrong with that woman. Somebody get her some help.
Right. She might be arrested for animal cruelty.
But we look at people who hoard money as if this is something that's aspirational. There is a point where it actually is doing damage to society, and that needs to be addressed by society.
Okay, so Kwame Allah is saying that wage and salary are two different things, and then there's commission, and all that is true. And you're also, and when you talk about an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos, it's not just a wage or a salary. A lot of it is just they own this thing, and this is, capital gains, right?
So there are various ways to accumulate income. You can earn it via wages. You can, and I say that that's truly earning. When you're getting your income via wages, you are earning that. But there are other ways that society says that you earn. It could be earning through investments, through interest, through lots of other ways. I'm clumping that together because this is not a discussion on economics.
Right.
This is a discussion on social justice.
I think it's about social justice, but I think you said something that a lot of folks haven't considered. We have a minimum, a floor for what you can earn, gain, accrue, hoard, but we do not have a maximum. Mm-hmm. And that, is something worth considering. I'm going to hop in here with Molly Bell from Compton says, Sharon Kyle, how do we find her page? Some of us still need help. When it said subscribe, does that cost?
Okay, that's a good question. So we do not set up a paywall. If you choose to go to laprogressive.com and you read articles, we hope that those articles help you. And in being helped, we hope that you will pay a little, but we won't stop you from reading. There are people that subscribe monthly, there are people that subscribe annually, and there are people that never pay a dime, which is the vast majority of the readers, I'm sad to say.
So it's kind of that Nipsey Hussle, proud to pay model where you just go and you pay because you want to support the work.
That's right.
But you're not compelled to do so. It's laprogressive.com, and that is really, I find that your site is very easy to navigate on a phone. laprogressive.com.
Thank you. I so appreciate you saying that because my husband and I started this, and I did not have a technical background. I read SEO for Dummies. I read HTTP for Dummies, website for Dummies, everything, because I was setting this thing up and really ran the technical part of the LA Progressive for the first 15 years. And then a year ago, we were offered an opportunity to use a platform that provided a lot of technical support, and through a company called Roundtable. And so we've accepted their invitation, and it's been working very well. So they help us out a lot, and I don't have to spend so much time doing search engine optimization and all these other things that I don't really understand, but I'm doing the best that I can. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I also appreciate the work that you do here, lifting up voices in the community. Like I noticed that Conversation Live dialed in. You provide an essential resource to Los Angeles, and you've been doing that for so long, Dominique. I really am appreciative of that.
Oh, thank you. And thanks for the love. LA Progressive did, Sharon did an interview with me. So I was on the other side of the mic. You can find that still if you search it under LA Progressive. Continuing our conversation with Sharon Kyle, who's the publisher, editor, and one of the writers for the Los Angeles Progressive. It's a daily publication which will get you up to speed if you are just, if you're not up on the issues, they can get you up to speed real quick. And right now you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Don't shave with that, son. You'll get razor bumps.
Nah, Pops. I'm good with Gillette Skin Guard. How long you been growing that beard anyway? You know Mama hates it.
Yeah, had it since my last wet shave in 77. Got ingrown so bad, looked like I was growing a patch of new noses.
That's why I use the Gillette Skin Guard razor, face scrub, shave gel, and moisturize, so I don't have to worry about new razor bumps or shaving irritation.
Gillette Skin Guard, huh? Your mama's gonna love this one.
I'm going out with the girls this weekend. Nails done, outfit stunner, and my skin, I know it's gonna be glowing because I glammed up my shower routine with new Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash. It smells so luxurious and moisturizes deep into my skin with its super rich, creamy lather that's bursting with vitamin B3. So my skin glows and my confidence grows. Try new Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash for glowing skin in just 14 days.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
Boy, they are going at it in the chat, but we're talking with Sharon Kyle, laprogressive.org. .com. I know this, but I subscribe so I don't have to worry about it. It comes to my email every day, laprogressive.com, and you can get it on your phone, get it on whatever device you're on, and you can sign up. They'll send you stuff every single day. And Sharon says read.
Please read.
Read.
It's hard because I read just about everything that's posted on the LA Progressive and help to edit it. And it does take a toll on you emotionally, but it also really gives you deep insight into, what's happening politically, even internationally.
Yeah. How do you select stuff for your site?
So we establish relationships with the authors. And I was just so surprised. Some really well-known people, they like to be published. Initially, when we started 16 years ago, it was during the time when publications like the Los Angeles Times were kind of going under, and they were laying off writers. And some people just feel compelled to write. And so they wanted us to, they were just writing at home, or they had their single one-person website that nobody read, and I was trying to get people to read, and so they would send us their content, and I was doing search engine optimization, and the writers found that they got more eyes on their pieces when it was sort of like syndicated. They were sending them out to lots of different places. So that's how it started. And hardly a week passes that a writer doesn't contact us.
And you have such a wide variety. You got black writers, white writers, they're progressives, but they're the whole gamut of progressives.
So my focus was I wanted to make sure that every single day we published a black writer, because in progressive spaces, I was seeing that you weren't seeing a whole lot of blackness in progressive spaces.
Yeah, that can be.
So for our daily newsletter, for example, it's a requirement. We have to have a woman and we have to have a black writer every day.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Speaking of major news stories, we don't really have time to touch on it, but I like to at least let people know that now we're getting reports that the entire food aid into Gaza is in flux or in jeopardy right now after Israel struck the World Central Kitchen and 7 workers were killed. These are workers who were there providing food. And they said, the CEO, Aaron Gore, according to the Washington Post, said it was a targeted attack by the IDF. Netanyahu is saying it was a terrible mistake. Those workers don't believe it. But we know that aid workers have not been safe delivering to Gaza.
Aid workers haven't been safe. And it's clear that Netanyahu his intentions are really to eradicate an entire population. Let's be honest. Yesterday, Israel had thousands of people in the street protesting and demanding an election. And I feel like that's encouraging. We've got to get the news out of the atrocities that are going on in Gaza. It sickens me that Joe Biden has not called outright for a ceasefire. And the United States needs to not send them any more bombs because Israel would not be where they are right now without our help.
Yeah, I mean, in other, after striking a kitchen, they're saying it's a mistake, but other aid groups are saying they're scared now. And so then it becomes, more and more likely that children are going to continue to starve to death, and that I just don't see how we as the world can stand by and witness that. I know that it's not the only place in the world where there's calamity going on. People bring up the Congo, certainly, Sudan.
Absolutely. I mean,
Haiti.
That's right. So the DRC for so long, thousands of lost lives, and we say nothing. And then I think that's indicative of the racist roots of this country. Journalism, major media outlets tend to disregard what's going on in Africa. Even I was listening to a podcast where they were measuring, just by account, how many times Africa is mentioned, and they were really talking about the Democratic Republic of Congo, how many times the DRC has been mentioned versus how many times Syria was mentioned in the past 10 years. And the disproportion is just impossible to ignore. And yet there's been much more killing in the DRC. And this is what we do in the United States. We ignore Africa, except to exploit it for its resources.
Yeah, and fear it, which I'm happy to say, all you have to do is travel there, and your opinion will change. I'm going to ask you this, even though we don't have much time left. As an attorney and a journalist, a progressive, what should we be tasked with as Black progressives heading into this 2024 election? I feel like there is erosion around the edges. There are Black people that I'm talking to now that are supporting Trump, whether it's because they're on an anti-immigrant kick and they think they're going to get some kind of deal, or whether it's because they just have bought this propaganda about they just don't like Biden, or even maybe they're dismayed about Gaza but to me, Trump is not the answer. What should we be doing?
So, really, not speaking as an attorney, just speaking as an informed American, the decision that I have made is that we need to not have Trump, and so I am supporting Biden. As disappointed as I am, and as determined as I am to improve our politics so that we're not always forced to choose the lesser of two evils. And I don't mean to say that Biden is evil, but I certainly don't flinch when I say that what is happening in Israel and Gaza is evil. And the United States is helping to make that a reality. Having said that, I do believe that having Trump as president is something that is unacceptable, and I cannot support Biden. I will be supporting Biden while at the same time supporting efforts to get a better system in place.
But I don't think our message is resonating, like with younger people, with men, certain Black men, real nationalist ones in particular. How do we get through?
Sadly, when I look at the times when this country has made major leaps forward, people have died in order to make that happen. We've had to reach a crisis. Oof. And I wish that wasn't true, but historically, that's the way it's been.
Well, one thing that does encourage me, I feel that there is a surge of progressivism, especially among the younger generations.
Absolutely, and that's very encouraging. It's encouraging when I participate in coalition with other organizations that are like-minded organizations. So many of those people, it's like, I'm ancient. Everybody calls me ma'am. So, so that's very encouraging. And they've said it before, maybe the older generation just has to die out in order for us to.
Well, I mean, it's the ideas that have to die out, right? I mean, because you still have a Dylan Roof who was like 20-something and, killed all those people in the church. True. It's the ideas that have to die out. You and I have probably been lone progressives in many a circle over the years, and so it's fun for me to see this younger generation with their unflinching and fearless analysis.
Yeah. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that probably at no other time in history have we had so many people who are educated. The educational system has really put the young people in a place where maybe they're not getting the jobs they thought they were going to get, but they have an education that will help them to create a new reality in this country. I don't think it would have been possible without the education.
Such a pleasure to talk with you, Sharon Kyle, laprogressive.com. Let's all go there. Let's subscribe. And if you can throw in $1 or $2 or 10 or $1 million, hey, do it. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so much, Dominique. It's been a pleasure.
We're talking arts in our schools, arts in education. A former LA superintendent of schools, Austin Buettner, is next on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's candidate Clayton Harris III, who conceded the election.